what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the Mr. Spann official podcast. I am your host, Mr. Spann, and yo, man, it's been a couple weeks since the last time I talked to y'all. I know we're gonna be doing things a little bit differently here. I've been working and whatnot and getting some things on the background kind of squared away because I do plan on migrating this show to another platform. So I've been working on getting those things taken care of. But yo, man, we're here. We're going to be talking about some things, and I hope to elucidate my thoughts rather clearly. And hopefully you guys can get something from it, and you guys can also kind of contribute to the conversation, right? So we are live right now on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and what's the other one? Twitch. That's what it is, Twitch. So we're live on all 4 of those platforms. So if you guys have anything to say about anything I've said on the show today, you're more than welcome to contribute to the conversation in the chat. Also, you can hit me up on a plethora of different ways, man. You can hit me up on email at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. That is still the email that you get in touch with us with. You can hit us up also on our hotline at area code 313-288-0485. There's area code 313-288-0485. Leave us those voicemail messages, and of course those messages will get played here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also check out the website. I haven't deaded the website yet, but I do plan to. That usually would be where you guys would go to, go back and listen to old episodes and vote in polls and stuff like that. But I'm scaling a lot of that stuff down. Just because I want to be able to kind of streamline how we do things, and also to be more responsive to you guys. And the website just wasn't really a thing that that a lot of you guys were really utilizing in that way. So I'm going to I'm trying to streamline some things down to make everything more efficient, right? So yeah, man. But you can hit us up at our hotline and our email, and get in touch with us that way, as well as hitting us up while we're doing the show here live, right? So yeah, man. First things first, I kind of want to get this out of the way. I want to send out my condolences to the family of Tyre Nichols. I know that the video had been released of the beating that he suffered under the hands of the Memphis Police Department. And I will go on record to say that, like, for those of you who don't feel like you are in a position, or, mentally, or, any kind of way, like, you don't have to watch that. Right. In much the same way that I talked about this when Kobe Bryant passed away, and there was video available of, his demise. We already knew that he was gone. We didn't have to watch it happen. And I know that we want transparency from these police departments and, these law enforcement agencies. But if you don't feel like you can mentally handle watching that, don't force yourself to do it. And try to steer clear of those who are prone to share that sort of thing, so that you don't have to endure whatever feelings you may have about watching a man being beat to a pulp by the Memphis Police Department, right? Because what happened. You don't necessarily have to see it in order to believe what happened to him was wrong. And yeah, man, I just wanted to send my condolences out to his family, and also for all of the people who are out demonstrating, man, do your thing. Right. I know that people oftentimes will tell you that there's a right way to do shit. Hey, man, get out there and make your voice heard, and make those demands heard. Right. I think because of the ways in which people have handled stuff, right, whether folks thought that they were doing it the right way or not, I think it does kind of colors how the response at the Memphis Police Department responded to this, right, by immediately firing these motherfuckers and immediately charging them with this man's death. So I think because of the previous actions that many folks had engaged in before, they didn't want that smoke this time. And also, I'm not going to lie to you, I do believe that because all 5 of those police officers were black, kind of also, let me stop that. But I do believe that they also contributed to how fast that they moved on not only firing these dudes, but also charging them with the death of Tyre Nichols. So yeah, man, we got that going on, man. Like, I know, like, normally this would be something that we would talk about in depth on the show, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, man. I haven't really been as engrossed in that story as I would have been normally, and so I don't really feel comfortable talking a whole hell of a lot about it, right? So that's not what we're going to be talking about today. I do have a couple other questions that I kind of want to, pose to the audience and stuff like that. And maybe this is just some things that I've been thinking about. And I just kind of want to see what you guys think about these as well, man. So there was another story that I saw kind of happen on Twitter, man, where there was this guy, I'm drawing a blank on what his name was, something Wayman or Way, Chef Way. He turned out he was like a district attorney in Harris County in Texas or something like that. But, people found out that like my man was on Twitter wilding, you know what I'm saying? He was on Twitter wilding, talking about black women in real greasy ways, man. And, people found out that he had sort of kind of rebranded his whole thing. Like he had become a chef and, he had kind of, tried to distance himself from some of the previous comments that he had made on social media. And like folks wasn't having it, you know what I'm saying? They're like, wait a minute, this you, you know what I'm saying? This you, like, these are the things that you said about black women previously. Like, how are you now in this position where you could actively, like, to a negative degree, affect the lives of other black people, in your current position of occupation. Right. And so, one of the things that I thought was interesting about that, though, although I think it was very much warranted what happened to this dude, because I'll put it to you like this. I don't know if this guy has made any real level of recompense towards the community that he hurt. I believe once he called himself rebranding, he thought that that was enough to kind of put that behind him and move on. And there wasn't any real effort towards making it right with the people that he had offended. Right. But it did bring me to this question, or this larger question of whether or not there was a statute of limitations on this you tweets, right? And the reason why I say that, not that I don't want anybody to ever, not that I don't want people to, kind of get the consequences that, from their actions, or, reap the consequences of their actions. But also, like, sometimes I wonder, like, how much of this is just people waiting to dunk on everyone, or having a reason to dunk on people. Right. I'm 42 years old. I've been on social media pretty much from its inception. I feel as though there were times that I've said things, and shit, even on the podcast, on the mic, I'm sure I've said things on this microphone and in social media that I know damn well I would probably punch myself in the face for saying. Right. I am not the same dude that I was 20 years ago or 10 years ago. And, there are things that I've said that I don't agree with now. And it's interesting now, like, anytime anyone says anything, there's someone waiting. They are waiting for that moment to, like, hit you with this you. And I was wondering whether or not there was a statute of limitations around that, right? Do people understand that, after 10 years that there could have been some things in someone's life that made them see things totally differently? Yeah, some people may not, right? Some people may not. But then there are also times where, yeah, man, like, some folks grow, some folks regress. But I wonder every now and again if when people are ready to hit you with this you, is that even something that they take into consideration? And, I also wonder, like, is it mostly based upon whether or not you like this person or not? If it's somebody that you don't necessarily like, you can't wait to drop this you on them when they say something contradictory to something that they may have said previously. And if it's somebody we like, now we're standing and ready to defend them and the changes that they've made over the course of time since that statement had been made. But it was interesting to kind of, like, it was one of the things that I was kind of thinking about, man, because, like, I was seeing some of the tweets resurface, and it wasn't just this Chef Way dude, but, like, some other folks, and they were getting hit with this you, and I'm looking at the age of the tweet, and it's like, yo, man, that was a while ago, man. Y'all really reached deep for that one. Like, y'all had to go back 10 years to find something that this person said that you didn't agree with. And it's not to say that anybody can't be held accountable for the things they did 10 years ago, especially if they're probably espousing some of the same bullshit, right? But also, like, yo, just take into account that everybody, life shows them different shit, and life will, you know, bring you to a different level of understanding, and you may not necessarily agree with that shit. And so is there room for people on social media to change in a way that is acceptable to those folks who are ready to hit you with this you know what I'm saying? That was just something I was thinking about, man, because like I said, I've been on social media pretty much since its inception, and I know I've said some foul shit, right, over the years, and maybe there's somebody waiting in the wings like, yo, Spann, this you know what I'm saying? And maybe you know, maybe I'll get hit with that one day. I don't know, but hopefully, like, you know, I think it probably lends into how you consistently show yourself to be. And if you consistently show yourself to not necessarily, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Not necessarily engage in the behavior that, you know, people would deem offensive before. Maybe that kind of lends into whether or not they come at you in the way that they would have come at you before, right? So, yeah, that was one of the things I was just kind of thinking about, man, the whole this you thing, because I've seen it happen quite a few times lately, and I was just kind of wondering about that, whether or not there was any statute of limitations on that. And so, you know, hit me up in the comments or in the you know, feedback, and let me know how you guys think about that and what you guys think about that, right? But for the most part, what we're going to talk about here today is the HBCU coaches, man. The football coaches, the high profile football coaches, they're you know, the name guys that have been coming through to HBCUs, and, you know, some of the fallout as to how they've been moving, whether that be, you know, leaving one school to go to another, whether that be getting hired in practice, but not hired on paper. And some of the attention that they bring to the HBCUs, and whether or not it's good attention, whether or not it's warranted attention, whether or not it's fair attention, right? And so this is something that I've been kind of thinking about. I've been kind of commiserating with this over in my head, like, you know, for the last the next couple months, man, especially since there was a time when Deion Sanders left Jackson State and decided that he was going to go to coach at Colorado. And a lot of the discussion around that decision that Deion made had a lot of folks in their feelings, man, and they were very strong, passionate feelings about his decision to leave, his, you know, everything surrounding why he left, some of the rhetoric around that, and whether or not HBCUs were getting short shrift in this whole deal, right? So since, you know, the hiring of Deion Sanders, we, you know, my alma mater, Tennessee State University, also hired a former NFL Hall of Famer in Eddie George. And more recently, the Bethune-Cookman University, in principle, had decided that they were going to hire Ed Reed at Bethune-Cookman, and that kind of blew up in the faces of everybody, right? And so we're going to kind of dive into some of the nuances and some of the ways in which, like, some of this has just become very problematic. Some of this has become a little bit toxic, and also how we talk about HBCUs, who's allowed to talk about HBCUs, that whole sort of thing, right? So, like, I guess I want to start with the whole thing with, like, say, for instance, Deion Sanders, right? So people were very upset with Deion Sanders. There were some folks who were very upset at the fact that Deion Sanders decided to leave Jackson State University after coaching them for about 2.5 years, right? And a lot of folks were very defensive of Deion Sanders, and part of the reason why they were defensive of Deion Sanders, their thought process kind of went like, yo, man, like, Deion Sanders brought more attention to Jackson State than Jackson State had ever had. Deion Sanders he was successful. He got him to 2 Celebration Bowls. His last season at Jackson State, they were undefeated. Like, the man came, he elevated the program, and now it's time for somebody else to kind of step in his footsteps and fill that void. And essentially, they called it the blueprint, right? Now, the interesting thing about calling it a blueprint, I think, is like, well, for one, I think what was going on with Deion Sanders was singular to him because of the personality that Deion Sanders was, because of the level of celebrity that Deion Sanders garnered. If you're a defensive back and you're trying to go to the next level, Deion Sanders was one of the greatest cornerbacks to ever grace the game. Right? Deion Sanders was that guy. So if you have an opportunity to be coached by a guy like that, and that's the position that you play, and you're trying to go to the next level, yeah, I know there's a lot of kids who are salivating at the opportunity to go and play for Deion Sanders, and a lot of that is going to probably transfer its way over to the University of Colorado. There are going to be some guys who have heard about Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders was their dad's hero in many cases now, because we're getting that old, right? So you got that going on, man, where Deion Sanders, he came to Jackson State with a lot of fanfare, man. As a matter of fact, let me pull this video up of this, because I believe this is important for the grand scheme of this discussion. And I thought I saved this. Let me see if I thought I saved this, and I didn't. But okay, so there was a Good Morning America. There was a Good Morning America interview with Michael Strahan and Deion Sanders. And one of the things that Deion Sanders said when he first got to Jackson State was that God told him to go to Jackson State. Right. And this was a thing that he had been called by God to do, that he wanted to lead these young men to become professionals. That they were going to be better than just football players. They're going to be professionals at life and things like that. And also how they were going to be leveling the playing field at Jackson State, how they were going to be recruiting some of the same players that a lot of the big time programs were going to be recruiting, and they were going to be landing some of these guys. Right. And lo and behold, that's exactly what he was able to do. And again, I believe a lot of this is because of who he was. It wasn't necessarily because these kids wanted to go to Jackson State. They wanted to go where Deion Sanders was, right? And so in many ways, Deion Sanders came to Jackson State under the auspices of him becoming sort of a savior to Jackson State, right? I'm going to come here. I'm going to make your program better. I'm going to attract all these high profile athletes. We're going to become a dominant team. And, this is what we're going to do. Now, some would argue that Deion Sanders delivered on all of that, right? And he did that, and it only took him 2.5 years. And to that, I would say you're probably right. You're probably right. For those who are upset that Deion Sanders left, many of the people that I believe that are upset that Deion Sanders left Jackson State was because they thought that the job was left undone. Like, they still didn't win either one of those Celebration Bowls that they went to. They went undefeated in the final year that he was there, but, the job was kind of left unfinished because they didn't win the ultimate game, right? So you got, those people who feel that way. You also have people who feel as though the way that Deion Sanders was presenting this was like, yo, I'm coming to save your situation. I'm coming to save your program, and God sent me here to do this. And when he left for Colorado, it was like, well, wait a minute, man. Like, the program ain't saved. We still sort of in the same position we were before you got here. And it was interesting how a lot of narrative started kind of rising about Deion Sanders and him leaving. Many people were reporting that Deion Sanders was getting robbed while he was at Jackson State. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody want to talk about him getting robbed, man. Nobody want to talk about, that they didn't have, he was saying they didn't have locker rooms, and Deion Sanders, he gave them half his salary so they could finish these projects up and stuff like that. And it was like, wait a minute now. When I went back and I listened to that interview of him and Michael Strahan, I'm starting to know, I noticed wait a minute, he was talking about the new locker rooms and the new football field and stuff like that before he ever coached a game. This was at his hiring announcement. So those things were already in motion before Deion Sanders he ever coached a game at Jackson State. Another thing that I think kind of rubbed folks the wrong way was the way in which he departed. Deion Sanders talked about it being, he said something to the effect of, you're going to get elevated or you're going to get terminated, and he kind of got that, it's almost like that reverence sort of shit, man, where he kind of talking to you in a reverence cadence. You get elevated or you're going to get terminated. And, but the thing is yo, man, if you were doing well at Jackson State, I doubt very seriously that they were going to be terminating him, right? If he was doing well at Jackson State. The other part about it that I thought was interesting was that for the last 2 years, he had been telling everybody that the white man's ice wasn't colder. And so it was that, I believe, that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way when you talked about, yo, man, you was coming here to level the playing field, and yet the first opportunity you got to get to a white program, so to speak, like let's keep it a buck. He went to Colorado, one of the whitest states in the country, right? Went to Colorado, and also one of the worst programs in the country. But you thought that going to one of the worst programs in, the Power Five from being one of the top programs with the HBCUs, because you had turned, Jackson State into one of the top programs, like to leave that and say that you were being elevated because you got a job with the worst program in, with PWI. So one of the worst programs with the PWI institutions. Like, I think a lot of people took that and like felt a certain sort of way about that. Like, yo, man, like, so this is your elevation to go coach one of the worst of theirs? That's elevation. That seemed like a slap in the face, right? And I think that had Deion Sanders come to Jackson State and had Deion Sanders say, hey, man, listen, I'm here to do a job. I'm here to coach these guys. I'm here to try to get some wins. I'm here to win championships. If we're able to do that, great. You know what I'm saying? And I think if he left and that was the rhetoric, nobody would have been upset with Deion Sanders when Deion Sanders decided to leave Jackson State. Deion Sanders came to Jackson State and he came with this Messiah complex. I'm coming to save Jackson State. I'm coming to save HBCUs. I'm coming to bring attention to HBCUs. And in many ways, he did bring attention to HBCUs, right? Or better yet, he brought attention to Jackson State. It wasn't necessarily that he brought attention to HBCUs overall. He brought a lot of attention to Jackson State. And so I just think that, like, that Messiah complex kind of warped how not only Deion Sanders looked at the situation with him coaching at Jackson State, but also how a lot of other people came to look at the situation with college football and HBCUs, especially at Jackson State, because a lot of people, especially those who are not familiar with HBCU culture, who didn't go to an HBCU institution, a lot of people was like, man, didn't nobody give a damn about y'all shit? Didn't nobody care? Y'all need to be thanking Deion, right? And it's interesting that they would think that when in many cases, man, like, yo, Deion Sanders was given an opportunity to coach at a college football level where that PWI probably wouldn't have given them that opportunity had they not seen him able to coach at an HBCU, right? Deion Sanders had no head coaching experience at the college level at all. So Jackson State actually gave him the opportunity. And it's interesting how it gets framed with a lot of these celebrity HBCU coaches. How it gets framed is like these high profile guys are coming to save these programs. They're coming to save these schools. When more often than not, what's happening is they're giving these guys their first opportunity to become head coaches at the college level, right? But we flip it as though they're coming to save this place, right? And so you take that and you flip this into what's going on right now with Ed Reed at Bethune-Cookman, right? So Ed Reed had agreed in principle to become head football coach at Bethune-Cookman University, and that didn't last long. It was like grand opening, grand closing when it came to that, right? And the reason why it was grand opening, grand closing was because Ed Reed went on Facebook Live, and he was disgruntled about the condition of the campus while he was there, and he was cleaning up. And as a matter of fact, I think I could pull this video up so you guys can watch right along with me. Let me see if I can, let me do this here. Shit, man, I'm a little rusty. I haven't done this in quite a while, man. So my apologies, y'all. But let me see if I can do this here so I can share my screen with you guys and you guys can watch with me. How do I do that again? I've forgotten how to do it. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is. All right, let's see. And yeah, here we go. So let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with me. Is that all the way up? Yeah, it's on the screen now. Okay, so here we go. Check this out, y'all.
What you want? How I'm gonna believe you, man? How I'm gonna believe him? Didn't I tell you I don't trust nobody? I'm coming over giving them the same passion and they sitting and laughing in my thing. Funny? We gonna ride through the fence that they ain't fixed the fence. We about to ride through this fence. This ain't even football side. This ain't even the football side. And y'all talking about Madden at my Uncle Prime. Y'all mad at Dion, mad at Prime. This shit is every HBCU.
Okay, so first things first, that's a problem to say that this shit is every HBCU. And y'all mad at Prime. Again, like I said, the reason that people were mad at Prime was because of how he left and the rhetoric surrounding why he left, right? People felt like Prime left for the best, like the first opportunity to get to a white school that he could get to. That's why they were mad, especially considering that he said, like, God sent me here to level the playing field. Well, obviously the playing field hadn't been leveled, especially if you can look at a white institution with a bad program, one of the worst programs in Division I football, and look at that as an elevation, right? And as opposed to the place that gave you the opportunity to give you a place to coach at the college level, right? Because even Colorado wasn't looking at Deion Sanders as a football coach until he went to Jackson State, right? So let's keep that a buck, right? But also to extrapolate the problems that you are having at Bethune-Cookman and to put that on all HBCUs is a bit unfair, because keep it a buck, Ed Reed, you ain't been to all over 100 HBCUs. Your experience right now is relegated to what's going on at Bethune-Cookman. Let's just keep that a buck, right? So, yeah, like, and this is also before he actually signed the contract to become Bethune-Cookman's coach. He hadn't been contractually obligated. He's not under contract. So this is the other part that I thought was very interesting. I get you being passionate. I get you wanting things to be right, but also there's a way to do shit. And this wasn't the way, right? This just wasn't the way. And I think that, like, you know, he went on Roland Martin and he talked about how, yeah, I go on live and I've been doing live. Someone screen recorded the live and then they put that out. But you have to understand that, like, yo, if you saying some shit, yo, like, that's the possibility that this shit can get out. So obviously it's not, it was the lack of accountability there, that it was somebody else's fault that this shit got out, when, like, you know that this is a possibility. You out here bad mouthing your employer before you actually got the job. Like real talk. Like you actually talk shit about the place you were supposed to work before you actually signed the papers to get to work. You ain't even signed your W-2s and shit yet, man. So yeah, that's going on. But I'm gonna let this play a little bit longer.
Bro, we riding through the fence. This is track, bro. This is track. This is what they practice on. It's a straightaway. This is intramural field. You can't practice on this. These kids got this to work with. Trash.
Okay, so you got that going on, right? So he's upset with the conditions of the school. He's upset with the conditions of the locker rooms. He's upset with a lot of stuff, and he's expressing this publicly on Facebook Live, right? Okay, fine and good, but again, you are under contract. So when the school decided, they're like, yo, man, you know, we don't, after review, we don't know if we want to go forward with this. It became a big deal, right? Because now Ed Reed feels victimized because he's saying, I'm doing this for the kids, right? I'm doing this for the kids. I'm passionate about these kids. These kids are getting short shrift. Now, here's the tripped out part. And I think a lot of folks, they get confused on this because we're conditioned to think of things as one or the other, when multiple things can be true at the same time, right? It can be true that Ed Reed was probably not the best fit for Bethune-Cookman as a football coach, right? That can be true. It can also be true that Bethune-Cookman University were dealing with some institutional issues that very much needed the attention, right? That can also be true. And so I think we often conflate the fact that, like, yo, they didn't want this coming out. Like, and but, you know, Ed Reed's, you know, advocacy is what brought a lot of people's attention to it, which is probably true, right? Which is probably true. But also there's a way to do shit, right? Because Ed Reed is saying that he wants to still be the football coach at Bethune-Cookman. And Bethune-Cookman is saying, nah, we good on you, right? Now, many people have talked about the amount of giving, the amount of funding that HBCUs tend to get or don't get. I know this is one of the things that Roland Martin has been tending to harp on is, the level of alumni give back, how many alumni actually donate back to the schools in which they went to, and how low the percentage of people who donate back to their schools are, right? And when you go through the numbers, it's not even just indicative of HBCUs, but like colleges overall in America, like the alumni give back or the alumni donations aren't necessarily that large. The numbers aren't necessarily that large. Very few schools have a very big percentage of their students who are donating and giving money back to the schools, right? The other part that gets kind of left out, or had been left out for a large portion of folks, is just how much of these schools, the land grant, HBCUs, are not being funded in the way in which they should be, and have been chronically underfunded for the better part of the last 50 years, right? Just take my alma mater, Tennessee State University. The school had been underfunded to the tune of $1.9 billion over the course of the last 50 years. They were not getting the same level of funding that the University of Tennessee was getting, which is also a land grant university in the state. The state is supposed to match funds, and they weren't giving the Tennessee State University the same kind of funds that they were giving Tennessee State or the University of Tennessee. They were giving the money to University of Tennessee. Tennessee State wasn't getting the same amount of money, right? Tennessee State was just now able to get, I believe, $425 million in grants from the state of Tennessee that they're going to be using towards infrastructure projects at the school. But this is money that's been owed to them for a while. The state still owes them over $500 million to this day, right now, right? And so the way in which, like, Ed Reed would talk about these conditions and how Deion Sanders is right kind of ignores the institutional hurdles that these schools have been dealing with on a fundamental financial level. Right now, Bethune-Cookman is a private institution. I don't know how much of their funds come from any sort of federal help, if at all. Right. I don't know if there's any sort of financial malfeasance going on at Bethune-Cookman, as a lot of people would like to allude to, and it's very well possible. But I believe that the way in which the message was given colored whether or not Bethune-Cookman was going to keep on with Ed Reed, right? Now, another wrinkle to this is Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe is, he's not an HBCU coach, but Shannon Sharpe is a commentator on Fox Sports. He co-hosts a show with Skip Bayless, I believe. What's it called? Undisputed, right? And I like Shannon Sharpe, man. I think Shannon Sharpe is, he kind of gives off that old uncle vibe. They call him Unc and everything else. Some people would say he's shucking and jiving with the, with the cigars and the cognac and everything else. But I think Shannon Sharpe is entertaining. I think Shannon Sharpe is sometimes insightful. I don't necessarily always agree with Shannon Sharpe, especially on his LeBron James shit. And I don't necessarily agree with Shannon Sharpe when it comes to the HBCU shit, right? Because even sometimes, like, this is the other part about it. Like, Shannon Sharpe has gone on record, and this is actually after Deion Sanders decided to leave, after he decided to leave the Jackson State University. Shannon Sharpe went on, he went on the propaganda tour, right? Shannon Sharpe was covering for his friend. And I get it. Like, Deion Sanders, you and Deion Sanders are cool. And you don't necessarily like how people are talking about your boy. So you're going to go out there, you're going to give him the public relations cover because, y'all got a relationship. But I did think that Shannon Sharpe did a disservice to HBCUs as well when, despite the fact that he went to an HBCU, Shannon Sharpe just made it clear that, like, yo, I went there because I couldn't get to one of them PWIs. Right? I didn't have the grades to get into one of them PWIs. Now, here's another thing. Here's another example of an HBCU giving someone an opportunity where the white institutions wouldn't. And yet we still find ourselves criticizing the HBCU and the HBCU culture, right? Because, a lot of folks tend to believe that this is something endemic about black people and how black people run shit. And so for Shannon Sharpe to get on there and be like, well, yeah, I'm going, to like, he was running interference for his boy. Like, that's how I kind of felt like that conversation, or that the commentary Shannon Sharpe, kind of engaged in with the Deion Sanders thing. I kind of like, all right, I got to kind of tune Shannon Sharpe out. But Shannon Sharpe also went on his show and talked about what was going on between Ed Reed and Bethune-Cookman. And, like in this case, like Shannon Sharpe was kind of talking a little bit of sense, but Ed Reed took offense to that shit, right? So let me pull this video up so you guys can watch this right along with me. Cause let me pull this down first, and then let me do this here. All right. So this is where is it? Okay, here we go. Yeah, Ed Reed apparently leaked out, text messages that he and Shannon Sharpe had shared while he was dealing with the fact that he was being let go or wasn't going to be brought on with Bethune-Cookman. So let me pull this up and you guys can watch right along with me. Check this out, y'all.
Y'all, this is crazy. Ed Reed leaks the IG conversation that Shannon Sharpe had with him. Shannon Sharpe DMs him saying, bro, I support you. If you took offense to anything I said, I apologize. Think you're going to make a hell of a coach. God didn't think that was the right situation for you. All the best. Prayer hands. Nah, bruh, that's not it. God did. You said a lot of wrong about me, player.
That's the dumbest thing
Like
I've
what?
ever heard
Let's
in my
talk.
life.
Now, you did this
No
on
wonder you
TV.
get D's
Let
and
us talk.
everything.
Sit in your spot. Ed,
Sorry,
I voiced an
didn't mean to do
opinion.
that.
It's not that deep. Wish you
Let me-
all
let
the
me- let
best.
me-
Like you did this on TV.
Let
us
me
talk.
rewind this.
You said a lot of wrong about me, player. Like what? Let's talk. Nah, you did this on TV. Let us talk. Sit in your spot. Ed, I voiced an opinion. It's not that deep. Wish you all the best, but I'm done with this. Ed Reed
All right.
has the caption, let's talk, Shannon Sharpe. We locked in. We want a coach.
Okay, so yeah, essentially Shannon Sharpe expressed his opinion on the show. Ed Reed, ain't feeling the apology that Shannon Sharpe extended to him. I don't know if he thought that the apology was sincere or not. And he's like, nah, man, I don't want to talk to you this way. We gonna talk on TV like he was talking on TV about me. And it's at a point now, and like I said, I saw the interview that Ed Reed had done on Roland Martin, and like, yeah, I could see the passion, man. I can see it. It's evident, but also like some of this shit just kind of seems like, yo, bro, like you got to tone some of this shit down, man. Like if you want to get the job done, there are ways in which you can maneuver in order to get the job done. And right now, this way that you're going about it doesn't seem to be working, right? And so, yeah, man, it's kind of weird in how, again, Ed Reed and Deion Sanders, both of whom did not go to HBCUs, right? Let's also make that clear. Both of these dudes did not go to HBCUs, but the way in which their attitude about coming to these institutions is about, I'm coming to save y'all. There's a Messiah complex there where like, yo, I'm coming to like lend my name and my notoriety to this school, and y'all should be grateful that I'm here. When at the same time, these are places that are giving you an opportunity to coach for the first time. And it's just a weird dynamic in how they're, kind of approaching it, where they think this is on some, like, I'm coming to save this thing. And here's the thing that I've been kind of, a little bit offended by as an HBCU alum, is this, man. And it's, like, I remember like after the death of George Floyd and the amount of attention that like folks were giving the HBCUs, because they were like, yo, man, like apparently these white institutions are still being unfair to us. These white institutions are still not giving us a fair shake. We would probably be better in a situation where we're, surrounded by some of our own, right? And so it was interesting to kind of watch some of even some high profile recruits were saying that like, yo, I think I'm gonna go to an HBCU. I want to change the narrative. I want to go to some place where like, and I want others to follow me. McCool Maker, was a very high profile basketball prospect. Was getting, Division I, offers from a bunch of different high profile schools. He decided to go to Howard. I remember even, who was that? Master P's son, Hersey. And I feel so sad for that kid that his daddy decided to name him Hersey. But no, but I remember when Hersey Miller decided that they were going to come to Tennessee State, and that was it was a bunch of hubbub about him coming to the school. I think most of that had to do with the fact that his dad was Master P. I don't know if like Hersey Miller was like a really high sought after prospect when he decided to come to TSU, but it was one of those things where like, yo, it's becoming fashionable. It's becoming fashionable to go to these HBCUs, and it was almost a trend. And in many ways, I started to look at like the way in which these high profile coaches would come into the HBCUs as though like, yo, this was a part of a trend. Because even with Tennessee State's football coach Eddie George went to Ohio State, and I hate Ohio State, but I do appreciate how Eddie George in this particular instance has spoken about some of the institutional challenges that the HBCUs is facing in many a way, and like in a way that neither Deion Sanders nor Ed Reed has been able to articulate. And so I got a clip of like Eddie George kind of speaking on the way in which like these schools are facing challenges that the PWIs are not facing these challenges, and this is why things are the way that they are. And so let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with me. Let me first of all, because I think this video has an intro, and I don't give a damn about their intro, but yeah, let me pull that up, and so you guys can watch right along with me here as well. Check this out, y'all.
It's fighting, and the bigger issue, the school is fighting, is the money that's owed to them from the land grant money that's been owed to them for the last 50 years. And that's something that can be a huge shot in the arm for our institution. And we have to be responsible enough to then take that money and put it toward infrastructure, put it toward new buildings, put it toward a robust endowment that can continue to build, to grow, and to set up other funds that's going to deal with the maintenance and the everyday use for our student athletes, and to bring in the talent and teachers where we're well staffed. So there's an opportunity there. Tennessee State has the bones to be a really, it's a great institution, but now it's time to go from good to great, to eminence, to being exceptionally great with those opportunities, with those funds, and so forth. So that's what I'm fighting for right now.
The Lit House.
All right, so yeah, here's Eddie George acknowledging the institutional structures or the institutional challenge that schools like Tennessee State and other HBCUs are facing when it comes to why these conditions are the way that they are. And Eddie George is one of it. I mean, there's a small sample size, right? Eddie George isn't, there's only been 3 so far right now, high profile former NFL players who have decided to come back and coach at HBCUs. And so like I don't want to tell people that like, yo, we need to get away from hiring these guys, right? We need to get away from the high profile dudes, this and other, because again, they do generate attention because of who they are. They do generate some level of recruiting advantage because these kids who may have watched them play, whose fathers may have watched them play, or fathers or mothers who may have watched these dudes play and have some level of influence as to what, decision their kids make as to which schools they're going to go to. But I think that like the attitude about how they come to the HBCUs, 2 out of 3 of them have been dealing with this Messiah complex, where they feel as though I'm coming to save this situation. I'm coming to, be the one who brings you guys out of the wilderness. And I think that like it's very condescending to some in the ways in which they go about it. And so, yeah, man, like hopefully, one of the things I think is very important, though, is the situation that is going on in Bethune-Cookman. Like, yes, Ed Reed was probably a catalyst, right? And this goes back to that multiple things being true thing. Ed Reed was probably the catalyst that got all of the attention on that school to start making some changes, or to start like at least acting like they wanted to make some changes, because apparently those kids have been asking for a bunch of different things for a long time, right? Like the football players talking about how they had to share helmets, how they had to wash their own uniforms. Other students talking about how they had mold in their dormitories and things of that nature, and how slow the school has been about fixing those issues. And, I get that, like, the kids are looking at this like, yo, man, Ed Reed, despite the fact that y'all may think he went about this the wrong way, Ed Reed got us the attention that we needed in order to get these things happening. And that can be true. But it can also be true that he might not have been the best fit for them as a football coach, especially considering Ed Reed didn't even get the ink signed. Like, he didn't get the ink dry on the contract before he started talking shit about the school. And so, yeah, man, it's just like this Messiah complex. And I will extend that to even Deion Sanders too, especially with the God rhetoric that Deion Sanders uses all the time. Deion Sanders, as big as a personality that he is, Deion Sanders still would not be the head coach at Colorado had it not been for the opportunity that Jackson State had given him. And Deion, unfortunately, has the attitude, or has projected that he has the attitude that, y'all were lucky to have me, and now I'm on to another opportunity. I had been elevated as opposed to terminated. And like I said, had he been continued to be a great football coach at Jackson State, I find it very, 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 very hard to believe that anybody would have fired Deion Sanders at Jackson State. And so I think the rhetoric that he kind of exercised in was a bit off-putting. But man, those are my thoughts, man. I really do believe that there's we gotta, if we're going to continue down this path of getting these guys to come back to the HBCU circle and contributing to our institutions in a meaningful way, got to check the egos at the door to some degree, man. Because again, these not only have these institutions been giving students opportunities where other institutions wouldn't, but they've also been giving some of these coaches opportunities where other institutions wouldn't. And I don't believe that they've been given the respect that they deserve because of the ways in which we talk about these institutions in these schools, man. So yeah, man, those are my thoughts, man. I just believe that Deion Sanders been tripping. I think that Ed Reed, despite the fact that he's been very passionate about the students at Bethune-Cookman, has also kind of like shot himself in the foot with some of the actions and the ways he's conducted himself over the course of the last few weeks, man. Real talk. So that's how I think about that, and those are my thoughts on it. But I'm getting ready to get on up out of here. I got some things to do today. And I know some of y'all are probably, like, yo, it's Spann, it's Sunday, it's like championship Sunday, nigga, we watching football. So do y'all thing. But of course, before we get on up out of here, I do have to remind you guys how to get in touch with me here at the Mr. Spann official podcast. Let your voice be heard. You can go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. There's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages, and of course those messages will get responded to and played here live here on the show. You can also email me here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave those emails, and of course those emails will get read here and reply to here live as well. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio. Those 5-star reviews will get read here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who goes about the business of doing that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Mr. Spann official podcast. All right. And man, that is the show for today. I will talk to you guys again soon. But until next time, fam, peace.